Hello, my name is Roop Rai, and you're watching Gen Z Unfiltered on Ideas on Point, presented to you by TC San. Sat Sri Akal to you, Namaskar, Assalamu Alaikum, welcome once again. You can watch us on Facebook and YouTube. You can watch us on Facebook and YouTube live at 5:15 p.m. Monday to Friday. You can also follow us on Instagram at TCSan2 for more updates. And of course, please like our page on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, details of which are provided in the caption. And as usual, behind the scene, we have Ali Nizami running this show. Thank you, Ali. So every Wednesday, we speak to young adults, the Generation Z, at young adults born after, I think it's year 1996, and we learn of their stories and their perspectives on how they see this world. From personal experience, I can tell you that there's always so much to learn from them. Today on Gen Z Unfiltered, we will be talking about gender roles in 2020. The scientific definition of gender roles is that gender roles refer to normative expectations about the division of labor between the sexes and to gender-related rules about social interactions that exist within a particular cultural historical context. And of course, I didn't write that. I took that from the International Encyclopedia of the Social and Behavioral Sciences, 2001. But simply put, gender roles are beliefs about gender-specific responsibilities. They're supposed to define how we're expected to act, speak, dress, or conduct ourselves based upon the gender that we identify with. But what do young adults today think about these gender roles? How have these roles evolved in the last 20 years or so? Or have they really evolved, especially in the context of South Asian community, which is what we're going to address on TCSAN majority of the times. And to join me in this discussion are 2 university students and 2 high school students. So let's please welcome Simran, Simrit, Amreet, and Ishkirat. Hi, Simran.
Hi.
Hi, Amreet. Hi, Ishkirat. And hi, Simrit. All right. We've got everyone in the stream now. So my first question, I'm actually going to open the floor for you guys and let you guys have this conversation. And hopefully I don't have to say much because I'm pretty sure all of you have a lot to say. So I'm just going to open the floor and ask you just a blanket question. How do you define gender role? What do gender roles mean for you? And I'll jump in now and then to kind of do comparative analysis to what I experienced. I'm totally going to date myself here 20 years ago. So I'll start with Simran. Do you want to start talking about it first?
Yeah, for sure. That's
okay, go ahead.
Even though it sounds like a simple question, I feel like in today's age, it's like a bit loaded as well. But to me, gendered roles are basically exactly what you said, sort of how a specific gender is sort of expected to act and behave and do certain things. Just not going into too much detail, let's just say there's male and female, or a woman and a man. The woman sort of, you could say, is expected to do more of household things, household chores and stuff like that. I'm talking about sort of the biases, or what we're sort of perceiving them as.
Gender roles is what has been set by the society. Yeah.
And then men, and go in the workforce, provide for the family, protect the family. That's sort of how I would define them, or how they've been defined in the past.
Amreet?
Yeah, I'd agree with everything that was just said. The scientific definition is pretty straightforward. Gender roles are the responsibilities that either male or female person has for them. To me, though, it's like the responsibilities and criteria we force upon babies when they're born, right? Is it a boy? Is it a girl? To me, like personally, I don't think that should matter, but they grow up as either a girl or a boy, and as they grow up and when they're an adult, they're forced to do certain things, they're expected to do certain things, and if they fail to do so, they're seen as outcasts in society.
And we can't just limit the genders to just male and female either. There are other genders as well. Ishkirat, go ahead.
So, as everyone's covered the textbook definition, but one thing I would want to add is the restriction that they put on a specific gender in reference to what they can or can't do without being judged by society is a huge part of gender roles for me. And then expectations, it's restricting for one to think that if I do this, I'd be put in the wrong.
And of course, you can't reach your potential when you're consistently told this is something that you can do or can't do. And it doesn't matter whether you're male or female or any other gender for that matter. Restrictions, I think, we'll go in further into it. But there are restrictions of, I mean, even for guys, you can't cry. Boys don't cry. Those kind of statements that we hear growing up. Simrit. Oh, Kharja, rukja. We have to unmute you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Gender roles to me is just like what you said, stereotypes created by society. And I'd like to add on to what Amreet said about babies. So it's like scientifically proven that by the age of 4, like kids already start like falling into those categories. Like they start defining like colors as boy or girl, right? Like pink is for girls, boys for blue is for boys. And like even clothes and their toys and clothes I feel like is like a really difficult thing if we're talking about gender roles, because I think people associate clothes with gender, and I don't think clothes have a gender, right? So if I'm wearing like a baggy shirt and some sweatpants, like people are sort of like, oh, why are you dressed like a boy, you know? I don't think clothes really
and you're wearing blue right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna bring Amreet back onto the screen because I know you suggested that we talk about this topic. So I'm gonna let you take the lead and tell me why it is that you wanted to talk about this. What do you think is the key concerns, like especially in the South Asian context? Because I have a lot to say, because when I was growing up, I don't know if things have changed at all anymore. There were a lot of things that we had, dealt with when I was a young adult. Again, I keep dating myself. I'm not that old, but I am much older than you guys. But when we were growing up, just being a girl, you were always told, you had a different set of rules in your house, right? You have to learn to cook, you have to learn to clean, but the boy in the house doesn't really have to do that because he's a boy and he doesn't need to do that. But of course that has changed in my house. Like I don't think my daughter would have those restrictions or those same set of rules will apply to her. But what about you guys? What are you experiencing? You tell me about that.
So the point you just made that girls have to learn to cook and clean, that has not changed at all. In some households, maybe with parents with modern mindsets, because some parents do teach their sons how to do housework, which is great. But in many traditional South Asian homes, even today, girls are the ones who have to serve their father, their brother. They have to cook, they have to clean. When their mom's not available, they have to wash the dishes, they have to clean the house, they have to do all the work, right? And the brother can do whatever he wants, but no one will ask him to do anything. And so I chose this topic because that's one of the reasons. Another one you mentioned was men's mental health, right? Boys can't cry. Why? They're human. It's a human emotion. Everyone should be able to cry equally. There should be no stigma around that. So I think in our generation too, especially, everyone's becoming aware of that now, but there are still many teenagers who think that a boy is weak if he cries, he's weak if he expresses emotions or gets help for mental health. Some people don't even associate mental health with men, right? It's like only women can be emotional, men can't, right? And some other things are like some guys think that they can control women because that's what they've been learning traditionally from the past and since they were born. They've been learning that they have more power over the women in their house. They're better than their sisters. They're better than their cousins. They're better than their friends. They will always get more opportunities. They can treat women however they want. They can say whatever they want, and no one will reprimand them for it, right? So I think that's a huge problem because the young men that are going to grow up to be role models in the future, if they don't have the right knowledge and the right education to help women go forward, then we're going to be stuck in this cycle of gender roles for a very long time. You're muted.
I'm muted too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want. I'm gonna let you guys have the conversation. So I'm gonna keep moving into the main screen. So whoever is next, I'm gonna do that. So I won't interfere. Okay, go ahead. You're
I'm
up
up next. All right. Yeah, that's a great point that you made about sort of. I can't really speak to how it's historically been because I didn't really do too much research on this topic. But I'm assuming it's sort of been going how you sort of explained it to be. I've actually been lucky enough to grow up in an environment, grow up in a house where, yes, those things sort of happen. Where my mom would usually say to me that if you were a girl, you would have been, cleaning the house, making food, helping me out. I do feel guilty that I don't do too much on that part, but those things do come up. Like you mentioned, since you are a female in the house, you would usually aid your mother in the kitchen. You would usually help her clean the house and on top of that, just do other things that you were supposed to do, right? But for me, it's been a little bit different because I actually do try to help out on the weekends where we have a day where I sort of cook the dinner. I've been kind of stopped because exam times have been going on, but we did that in the summer. We were kind of stopped and when my school started, but basically I would sort of cook dinner and whatnot. And I think it's really interesting to see how it's sort of changed in a little bit, because this, I think, sort of began when women sort of started to go more into the workforce. And that also sort of made, labor cheaper. And we'll probably discuss about that later, if not, whatever, right?
I'm sorry, I'm just going to intervene here. So as a guy, you're the only sole representative here. As a guy, and my question to you would be, do you feel that this is not my job to cook? Or if I'm cooking, I'm doing it because it's fun, not not something that I have to do? Because with girls, sometimes that's what they're made to feel, that you have to do this job.
Right. Okay, so I would say yes and no. Yes, the short answer is yes, no, but because my parents sort of force me. Force isn't really a word, but it just sort of creates an environment because my mom won't do anything, so somebody has to make the food. So it has to be me, right? It's just that sort of scenario.
Yeah.
But if like for example, now school's happening, right? I'm sure Amreet, if you help your mom with the kitchen, you're not stopping helping her, right? You're stopping to help her in the kitchen, but you could say I sort of have that like freedom or like get out of jail card where I can just not do that. So to answer that question, yes, I do feel like I have a bit of more of an escape than, for example, Amrit or any of the other females.
So I'm talking about, like, in your head, do you feel, I'm just trying to get into that. Do you
Yeah,
feel
for sure.
that it's not your
Maybe, yeah.
job? It's not your job. If you help, you're helping your mom, but you're not really doing your job. But if someone, I'm going to move on to the next person. Let's talk to Simrit here. Simrit, I know your mom really well. I know your family. I know they're very progressive, and there's no such, I don't see you being treated any different than if you were a boy. But do you ever feel, whether not but just by your family, like if someone else outside or just the societal pressures, like do you ever feel that you're a girl and you're supposed to, let's say you get married or you have your own family, that it's your job as the woman in the family to cook, to clean? Do you ever feel that? I'm just curious to know. And your mic is off right now.
Yeah, I do feel like that. But I feel like it's just a matter of like your mindset, right? Like if like you said, my parents are progressive, right? So they haven't really made like that type of environment for me, but I don't know, maybe just like biologically, I don't know. It's just something like I want to help out. You know what I mean? Like if my parents are busy and I have a little sister at home, right? So I have to make food, or I have to cook, or I have to clean, right? It's like stuff like that. And but I feel like once I get married, it's like a different generation, right? I feel like when everyone in this chat, when we have kids or when we get married and have a life of our own, I mean, I hope so that like we're not gonna um like keep our kids in that environment where we feel like they have specific um
Roles
responsibilities.
or pigeonhole into that role.
Yeah. Like they don't have restrictions like
Mhm.
Ishkirat mentioned before, just because
Mhm.
of their gender. I say like when I get married, I'm not gonna be the only one cooking and cleaning. I expect my significant other to do the same amount of work as me, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, I think it's not just about mindset. Some parents I know are like on two completely different sides of the spectrum, right? Like they can some have like the South Asian mentality that they grew up with still, and some are like way more like just awake about these kind of topics, right? So they understand. And I just think it all just boils down to your mentality and mindset.
Mhm. But deep down, like you said, it's whether it's biologically or whether it's a society, like somewhere there's that conditioning that as a woman or as
Yeah.
a girl, you feel
Yeah.
that you have that responsibility somewhere to keep
Yeah.
the home running, basically.
I think, like, I'm just personally speaking, sometimes I feel guilty, right? Like, if I'm just sitting in bed
Mm.
all day, I feel like I should be doing something, not like just schoolwork or like something for my personal life, but just like in the house. I feel like, what am I actually like, like, how am I adding value to the house if I'm
Yeah.
living here, right? And I
Yeah.
mean, I can't speak for males as a whole, but I feel
Yeah.
like from what I've seen personally,
Simran's like,
I
oh,
feel
that's
like,
fine.
like no offense, right? I can't speak for Simran or
Yeah.
anyone. I'm just saying though, I think like from what I've seen, personally, I don't think males have like I don't know what
Yeah,
the word
they
is.
don't feel the guilt for sure.
Yeah, they don't feel
Um,
guilt or they don't have the
and
responsibility for it.
I speak for my brother and my husband, actually, for that matter. All right, Simran, what do you have to say?
Oh, I guess I didn't really think about it that you feel sort of guilt for not doing for household chores. But now that I only think about it from, I guess, my perspective, being a male, do feel guilty when my dad is sort of doing all the hard things, or doing hard things, or making money,
Shoveling the
going out there,
snow.
right? Exactly. Oh yeah, exactly. For example, it's doing physical labor, right? Shoveling the snow like in the winter, or watering the grass in the summer. I do feel like, hey, I should be doing that in that case.
Interesting.
I just wanted to
Interesting.
mention that, yeah.
Simran wants to say something after you're done. Okay, go, Simran. You need to unmute your mic, sweetheart.
Oh,
Okay, I did it. Go
sorry,
ahead.
I keep forgetting. Just adding on to what Simran said, I think gender roles is there's like because of your gender, there's like certain expectations. So like Simran mentioned before, like being a woman is more like, well, in the past at least it was like being a housewife, taking care of the kids, all that. And then being a man, like being the breadwinner of the family, doing like the more masculine things, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, I mean when my dad's shoveling the snow, I feel like I want to go do that too, right? I don't, or like when he's building a dresser, I help him. You know what I mean? I think it's just about the environment you grow up in, and then because it's me and my sister, we don't have any brothers, right? So I feel like being the oldest as well, that plays a part of
Mhm.
your responsibilities.
Yeah, the dynamics are different when it's a two-boy household or a two-girl household, or we were two girls and a boy. And I think, what about Ishkirat? You have a brother, right?
I do. I have a brother.
So tell us your story.
And so I feel like within my own household, it's not so much of a big deal. Like we're both expected to do specific things. And if my brother is able to get away with not doing something, it's generally because he's younger. It'll be given like oh, he's so young, he doesn't have to do it now. And that bothers me. I have not had too much of an experience with, oh, you're a girl, so you should be doing this, especially from my parents. I will say though, when I meet others from our culture, that becomes a huge thing. For example, the idea of marriage, it's like, oh, can you cook? You should be able to cook to have a marriage. You should need to get married. You're at this age, you should start looking for a guy now. That pressure of finding a significant other, and if you're not matching these gender roles, you're not going to, in its own way, is very hurtful. And then the idea that these gender roles create and the stereotypes they create and how they affect just each other. Like younger children in kindergarten, for example, if boys are always taught that, oh, pink is a girl's color, they start mocking other boys for wearing pink.
So I think Ishkirat's mic is breaking up again. I'm going to bring Amreet back to screen. Sorry, Ishkirat, I didn't mean to pull you out like that. Yeah, your mic is not working again. Sorry. Okay, can you hear me, Amreet?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna go back to what you said earlier, the mental health for males, mental health for men. So yes, we spoke about the restrictions that women feel, the pressure, or the girls feel in our community especially, and the challenges and the limitations that we feel. Let's talk about from guys' perspective too. I think the whole burden of being a breadwinner, trying to keep up that macho image, that masculinity is so strong, especially in the Punjabi culture. You listen to any Punjabi songs, you listen to any Punjabi music. If you don't have a big house, if you don't have big cars, you have big guns, and you don't have women around you, you're not a man enough. So that, to me, also is a gender role. That's also a stereotype that is basically forced upon people, or even especially the younger generation, when you're growing up and you're trying to understand what being a man is or what being a woman is. So what kind of pressures do you think men feel from your perspective, or boys for that matter? And then we'll go to Simran after that.
Yeah, so some I've seen is that first one, that they can't cry. They can't be emotional. They can't be open about negative emotions or how they're feeling. Yeah, they're often told to man up. Boys are expected to be tough, I guess. And when it comes to school, I've seen it too. So teachers, when they ask that typical question, oh, can I get some students to help me with the chairs? It's always boys who stand up, and it's the teachers expect boys to stand up too, right? And I've seen some films and videos when a girl stands up, the boys either make fun of her or the teacher says, no, this is going to be too heavy for you, right? So I feel like boys are always expected to be tough and strong. They're always expected to do the physical work, the more heavier work, masculine work. And I feel like boys are supposed to expected to be smarter as well, so they can get better jobs and they can get all the opportunities too. Yeah, that's mainly what I have.
That's actually very interesting about smarts. Do you ever feel like that boys are expected to do better in math, science? Do you ever?
Yeah. So I feel like naturally people would assume that boys are smart. Maybe that's changing today, I guess, because girls have been proving them wrong, obviously. But traditionally, like people with traditional mindsets, or even like traditionally South Asian homes, people expect, like, if they have a son, that the son is smart, that he gets really good grades, and that he's going to go to university and do something great. He's going to get the best job. And people usually expect the girl, if they're not progressive, to learn how to be a domestic wife, a housewife, and get married.
And you still experience that now in your friends circle, in your social circle, or outside, like maybe not in your house, but you still see that happening around you?
Yeah, in some cases, it's that part is really changing now, which is great, but you can still see it in some cases where, especially the millennials, where parents really want their daughters to be married in good homes, and they might have some restrictions on their education and opportunities and things like that.
Interesting. Simran, do you think you're smarter than rest of them here?
I don't know. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not.
Are you the smartest panelist?
Maybe. Who knows?
Just on account of your gender.
It's actually an interesting question you asked, Amreet, about if if you think males are expected to be more sharper in studies. But I think if not in studies, definitely in physical activities. But I think while that's sort of like the stigma that we have in our community and just around the world itself, I think movies and sort of video games are trying to break that. I don't know if you guys remember that movie called Dangal, where they had women wrestlers who would wrestle against men as well. I think it's sort of shifting, but it's still present in our mentality, you could say.
Simrit, I'm going to move her. I'm going to turn her mic off. Okay, there you go.
I got it. Yeah, so what Simran said about like physical activity, like one of a modern day example is, I'm not sure what team, I don't follow football at all, but I know that a female player got drafted, I'm pretty sure, to the league, and everyone in the comments was like, oh no, like I hope she gets tackled, like her first game, I hope she gets hurt and stuff like that, right? Like no one was ready to accept it because football is a man's game, or like at least that's what it's televised as, right? And also along with like mental health about males, I think body image is something really important as well, because usually this discussion is only talked about when women go on social media, they see like a certain body type that they want, right? I think that they have women are expected to have a certain body type by society, but I think it's the same for men as well, right? If you're not fit, or if you don't have muscles, it's not considered, you know what I mean, like manly enough. And I think boys carry the same amount of pressure from society just as much as women do, but it's not like as talked about how women see it. If that makes sense.
No, and absolutely. Of course, there's different kind of pressures on both men and women. Whenever we talk about gender roles, like we usually tend to have like a one-sided discussion. We talk about, oh, women are not being treated fairly, or we feel that it's like misogyny, or there's patriarchy. Yes, that is, of course, existent, but we always ignore the other side of the coin. Like men are also victim of these gender roles, like Jag just said. Simran, you need to speak up for men too, man. I'm going to try Ishkirat and try to bring her back on screen and see if her mic works this time. Let's try it, Ishkirat. Go ahead.
Is it working this time? I don't know. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I think a huge idea that Simran just brought up is masculinity and femininity. The idea.
I really want to hear what she has to say, because she has so much value to add. Goodness. Nahi Ishkirat, nahi sun raha. So I think you need to go back out and come back in again. Maybe we'll do that. Okay. All right. So anyone else? So where were we? We were talking about how men are also. Hold up. Let me bring that up again. Simran, do you want to say something to that? Do you want to say something to Jack? I got your back, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're the host, right? You're sort of deciding who goes when, but it's like speaking for men. It's not that I have to speak for men, right? I know I'm a male. I guess I have a insider perspective, but that doesn't exactly mean that all these lovely ladies can't talk about men as well, right?
Oh, he's a.
No, but I mean what I said, right? It's like I may have
Yeah.
a different perspective, but that does not give me like an exclusive right to talk about, males.
Thank you for speaking up, Simran. That was very nice of you. I'm actually going to share a story with you guys about my daughter. She is now 9 years old. So when she was little, when she was born, I decided that I'm not going to fall into these gender role at all. So I purchased white clothes for her. I did not buy her anything pink or blue. I had her dressed in yellow, green, just the neutral colors. And then I purchased a lot of cars for her, trucks for her. And this was I think around when she was 1.5 years old, I gave her a lot of trucks. I didn't buy her any dolls because it was sort of a social experiment for me too. And I told my parents, watch this. I'm going to make sure that my girl does not play with any Barbies and she doesn't have anything pink and she's not going to wear any frilly dresses. I'm not going to dress her up like that. So she had a whole, like 4 or 5 trucks. And I I went upstairs for something and then I come downstairs. She's sitting on the stairs and she has those trucks lined up on one of the stairs and she has a blanket on top of them and she's putting them to sleep. Just like you would to dolls, right? She's putting her trucks to sleep and she was like 1.5 years. And from that point to now, like I've given up on that. It's just basically, I've left her to her own devices. She can decide who she wants to be. She can wear dresses if she wants to be. She can be who she wants to be rather than, just pigeonholing her into any role, whether it's I'm going against the tradition or with the tradition, it doesn't matter. I don't have to tell her what to be. So I think the goal is just let the person be. They could be whoever they want to be. If it's a girl and she wants to do the traditionally girly things, so be it. What do you say to that? Who's going to talk? All right.
Amreet, do you want to go first?
No, you can go.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to say props to you, Roop, to being so, open-minded. I don't think a lot of Desi parents have that mentality as of now, at least. Yeah, just being who you are, right? That's very important. And I think, like we were talking about before, like the kids, right? Like they get even toys, how you mentioned, like they have a gender associated with them, which is obviously not true, right? But that's just how society puts it as. And I think it's all about like your mindset, how I mentioned before. Like just yesterday, my nana came over, and and when my mom guys were born, my mom has 2 sisters, and um, we were just like talking about his past and everything, and he said I did not care if I had girls or boys. Like I told my mom's mom when she was having her, it's okay if it's a girl, it's okay if it's a boy, it doesn't matter to me. And I think that's really like it's something to like take away from, because back in their time it wasn't a good thing to have a girl, right? And so since my parents, my mom grew up with that, having 2 sisters, her being the youngest, and then my dad also, he was part of a family with a brother in him. And it's just all about the environment you grow up in, right? Because I feel like, yeah. Okay, Simran can talk.
All right, Simran. No, I'm gonna let Amreet talk. Simran, you talk too much. Karja, you're like that keener
No,
in the
it's okay.
class that who wants to talk all the time.
I'll give the floor to Simran because I want to know what they have to
Okay.
say. So Simran and Simran. But yeah, I'll add on to their conversation.
Wow, so nice of you, Amreet. Thank you. It wasn't something big. I just wanted to just so she said something I was wanting to not respond and say, but add on to it. But basically, what how people want. I don't know if it's here, but in India, they prefer a boy child instead of a girl child, right? I think it's sort of is like that because when you marry your girl, right, your baby girl, you're marrying her. It's often their responsibility to also we can also discuss that as well. It's often their responsibility to pay for the wedding, pay for her, and then the whole thing about the hajj and whatever, right? I think that's also a big problem, but that might be a different discussion. But I think that's sort of their reasoning of why they prefer a boy over having a baby girl.
Amreet?
Okay. Yeah, so I agree with everything both of you said. Yeah, in India, it's a huge problem, right? Especially in the past. Like now, again, everything is changing. But yeah, girls were killed. They were aborted. They were thrown in trash cans, right? They were killed in closed cars. They were given away because they wanted a boy, because the family wanted a boy. And that's just so wrong, right? Like a baby is a baby. It shouldn't matter, right? And I wanted to add on to the first question you asked, why I wanted to talk about this. So I actually read this amazing book called The Gender Games just recently. I finished it. And this inspired me a lot. And one thing is I participate in Nataks, right? So usually our main topic has been for many years gender equality and how girls are looked down upon and how boys are preferred in South Asian families, right? So I'm really happy, Simran, you brought that up because it's a huge issue, right? But I'm also happy that in this modern society, especially in Canada, that's changing. Yeah, so what I wanted to say was the story about Arohi. I think that's amazing that you tried to not fit her and mold her into a traditional girl. And I feel like that's a really good step forward. And then that also raises the question of gender neutrality. So what I've studied, what I've planned is for my future, if I decide to ever have kids, I will not declare if my child is a boy or a girl. I will declare that my child is a child. And so with gender neutrality, it's when you have a baby, you don't make them a boy or a girl. You make them a human, and it's up to them to decide if they want to fit into gender. And I think with a lot of books, a lot of essays and topics and films and videos, there's a lot of questioning around if gender will even exist in the future. So I want to know your guys' thoughts on that as well.
Interesting question. Ishkirat, let's try you again.
Okay, give someone like stuff if they can hear me.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy you a microphone for next time or a webcam. Yeah, no.
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 Okay.
Yeah,
I will.
sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, bud. We'll try next time. I think you can stay in the conversation, but yeah, we'll. Simrit, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I find the statement that we just made interesting. I think it's like a good thing. Obviously, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just want to talk about the thing you said that you're gonna let them decide for them what their gender is, which I 100% completely agree, because I feel like with being a boy and a girl right now, as of right now,
or just being
like from my
gender fluid, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be a boy or a girl. You could be.
Or even non-binary is what it's called.
Yeah, but as of right now, I feel like in our community, it seems like guys have more freedom to choose what like decide for themselves, like opposed to girls, where they kind of get their decisions made for them just because they're a girl, to be kept safe, like by their parents, so like they don't run into trouble or they don't get taken advantage of. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that's fair, because you know what I mean? It's gender roles at the end of the day, right? But
Sorry, Simran, question to you is what Amreet just mentioned about gender neutrality. If you have kids, whenever you have kids, hopefully it'll be a long time from now. Whenever you have kids,
I just would call them not that old.
Because if your parents watch, I don't want them to think I'm encouraging to have children. I'm encouraging you to have children. But whenever you have kids, what do you think of the idea of not labeling them either a boy or a girl or whatever?
You're really putting me on the spot. I never actually thought about this, but it is a very interesting topic, or like a concept, I guess. Do you want to label your children a specific gender, or do you want to, give them a choice? Me personally, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, because I'm sort of like a person that sort of my opinion might be this today might change to the opposite tomorrow. So if I don't know if I can change up my opinions, but I guess what I think right now, I think personally, I'll sort of I won't. I know Amreet brought up that she won't like if she ever does decide to have kids, she will never label them as a boy or a girl, but as a child. Me personally, I think I'll still not exactly label them or sort of bring them up as a boy or a child, but I won't sort of
not have a
them.
gender.
Yeah, I won't disconnect them completely from the idea of gender, because while male and female are like very equal, and but realistically we do have our own differences, right? We like talk about biological or just our differences, in our psychology and whatnot, but there are differences and they can't be ignored. But at the same time, I also wanted to mention, just on sort of a side note, I guess, when we sort of say gender roles, right? Women are expected to do X and men are expected to do Y. That's fine up until a point where we sort of say they can only do X and they can only do Y, and they can't do, and women can't do Y and men can't do X, right? They can't do what women do, or men can't, or women can't do what men do, right? There should be, because in my opinion, gender roles do provide a certain level of sort of efficiency in society as well. And I think we see that as well, because now, because like sometimes it could, you guys maybe like two partners could come into a bit of an argument, where if a woman says, I don't want to wash the dishes, you wash the dishes, right? But then if the male sort of comes in, hey, I don't want to do it either, guess nobody gets it done, right? But at the same time, I was just talking about the dishes part. If the female, let's say, wants to do something else, she wants to do something else with her time, maybe the male can come in, and help out with the dishes or any chores that the female would usually do. So I'd say that it shouldn't, while they are sort of, I believe they're necessary, but at the same time, they shouldn't be confined to it where that is only what they can do.
They should not become a limitation or a handicap.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my last question before we end today's chat is, does any one of you feel the burden of gender roles? Do you feel restricted, limited in any way? If yes, then how? Anyone can go first. Amreet, you want to go? Go.
Okay, yeah. First of all, I wanted to say a point that Ishkirat made. So she said that masculinity and femininity cause males and females to behave a specific way towards each other. And I guess she was connecting that to what Simran was saying. But for your question, I sometimes feel restricted. It depends on the situation, right? So if we go back to the housework scenario, I feel restricted in terms of not having enough time to help out, I guess. It's what Simrit said about feeling guilty. So I feel like if I don't do it, my mom often I don't want to put the light on my mom just because I know a lot of moms.
And it's not just your mom. It's really not just your mom. It's my mom too. It's maybe I am like that too. I don't know, because you're socially conditioned a certain way, right?
Yeah. But no, I know a lot of women in our culture especially compare their children to each other, to others' children. And so if I hear a story from work and my mom tells me, oh, this auntie's daughter does this auntie's daughter cooks that, this auntie's daughter cleans like this, and I just stand there looking at her like, do I not do enough? Right? I feel so guilty and I feel restricted in that way, that I need to do more, and that I'm a girl, so I'm expected to, I have to, right? And if I don't, I'm seen as lazy and irresponsible and immature.
Very interesting. Simran, your dad's watching.
I know. I'm going to pick what I say very carefully. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I feel gender roles, of course. Not so much about household chores. Sometimes I even enjoy doing it. I feel this is my living space, right? So even if I were to live alone, I would still be taking care of it. So I mean, it's not really a big deal to me. And no one in my house forces me to do anything ever. It's always by choice, right? Because I feel like it's my responsibility.
I think it's because your dad's watching, right?
Maybe just a little bit.
Okay.
But also, I feel about coming back to the topic about school and a career. Females now we're obviously expected to study just as males are, right? We all want a career for ourselves, and I feel like being a female, I think the pressure is to like get your life together more quickly, like from my perspective at
Good
least, right?
point.
Because I feel like kind of coming back to Amreet's point that she made in the beginning about, I feel like maybe boys get a little more babied, so like if they don't have it figured out to a certain age, that's all right. But I feel like as a woman, you have to get everything together for yourself, and I feel like that is restricted with the um restrictions put on you by like, if I can't make a certain decision for myself, then how am I supposed to get everything in order by the time I'm 21, or you know what I mean? So yeah.
You make such good points, guys. You're amazing. I should start writing these gems down. And maybe I think I'm going to watch the show again and write like some key points that you guys made and maybe make a post about it. Simran, I think, yeah, your mic. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Before I just say anything, I just wanted to mention some of the points that Ishkirat made. She was just in her private chat. She was just discussing how some of the things that we discussed before. How we sort of relate color to a gender. Pink for women and blue for boys, and also about our own body image as well, where some men might body shame some women if they are a bit overweight or if they aren't slim. And same goes for perhaps women, right? If a man isn't muscular, they might mock them, say, hey, you're not even a man, like whatever, comments they might make towards something that's not traditional. And at the end, she also wanted to mention how sort of if you don't conform in sort of these things, it's also seen as you're not exactly valid in society, like you're lesser of a human if you don't conform in these gender roles. I think that was a really good point that she made, and that sort of, I guess, goes back to about humans wanting to sort of belong, and they're sort of just cling on to whatever everybody else is saying, sort of this sheep mentality. And I think everybody watching should be careful of that. Whenever they sort of say anything, whatever any opinions they have, make sure that you sort of stand by them, and not that you're sort of going with the crowd. Like you're not part of the herd. You're sort of thinking for yourself. And after you've thought for yourself, and if it is what everybody thinks, or if it isn't, be proud of what it is, right? That's sort of what I wanted to mention. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. There was so much in this 1 hour that I think I have to revisit everything that you guys said and write those points down and maybe make a smaller video, like a 3-minute video, and then put it out as well. But this is so Nick, last time we had this conversation, I was totally blown away with all three of the young ladies, and now we have Simran join the panel as well. Hopefully we'll have Ishkirat back next time. We'll go grab a new webcam for her, and we'll get her back into the conversation. You want to say something real quick? Simran wants to say something real quick again.
Well, actually, there was an interesting idea that I had while I was sort of brainstorming before coming onto the show. That what about same-sex partners, right? If you have a female and a female, what happens there, right? And let's say you're living in a home, right? You're married, and there's two females. Do both of them go out in the workforce? Do both of them do household chores?
Let's talk about let's talk about gender itself. Like, I think gender is a huge topic in itself.
Yeah, I think that's
that's massive if you start exploring. And a lot of times, like in our community, especially in South Asian community, we don't even want to acknowledge the idea of the concept of gender other than the traditional, the man and the woman, and the cis, the straight, I guess, the way traditionally it has been between a man and a woman. We don't acknowledge anything beyond that. I know personally, my father, or even my brother to a large extent, like anytime you mention anything other than straight relationships, it's almost a reaction of, oh no, don't talk to me about that. Okay, it exists, but don't just don't talk about it. So gender in itself is a huge topic. I think I would love to talk to you guys about that. Perhaps like we'll go deeper into it next time. We'll think about it when we do it. But thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I know, Simran, you have a class to go to. Thank you, Simrit, for giving us your time, and Amreet, as usual, always leading and having those leadership qualities and being so thoughtful at this age. It's amazing for all of you. And thank you, Ishkirat, as well. She says, people, specifically politicians or politics, has a tendency of including human rights with culture and religion. Yes, we need to speak about that too. But thank you once again. Lovely having you. Sat Sri Akal. And you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll talk next week.